Hello, and welcome to Kaplan's overview of UK medical school admissions. There are two medical admissions tests that are offered within the UK, the BMAT and the UCAT. Now, these tests were introduced in order to try to level the playing field between medical school applicants, as universities found that there were too many applicants who had perfect grades, and it was hard to differentiate between them. So medical applicants must sit the UCAT, the BMAT, or both. Keep in mind that a good score on the UCAT or the BMAT can set you apart in the university admissions process. Speaking of the university admissions process, let's take a look at the timeline for medical admissions. The timeline starts very early. In January through June, before you're applying to medical school, you should look to carry out some medical work experience. In May, the UCAT registration opens. If you know that you are going to be taking the UCAT, you should go ahead and register at this time. One, so you can make sure that you get a seat where you want and when you want. And two, so you have a deadline to work towards while you're working on prep. From May until August, you should start working on your personal statement. Although a personal statement is fairly short for medical school admissions, this is one of your only chances pre-interview to speak directly to the admissions committee. So you want to make sure that you spend a good amount of time working on this so the personal statement reflects well on you. July is the first date that you can sit the UCAT. Now, you do not have to sit the UCAT in July. You can actually wait all the way until the end of September. Late August/early September is the first time that you can take the BMAT. September is the last time that you can register for the UCAT. So the standard entry for closing for the October BMAT, the last date to sit the UCAT, and the late entry closing date for the BMAT all happen in the first half of October. Now, these dates are flexible depending on the year of application. The 15th of October is also the UCAS deadline for medicine and dentistry. Now, please remember that this deadline is earlier than the deadline would be if you were applying to other programs. This is because medical schools are going to issue invitations to interview to candidates that they feel are promising. And these interviews are going to take place between November and March. When deciding on where to apply, you should also remember that if you are taking the late October or early November BMAT test date, you will not have your BMAT test scores prior to application. So you probably want to apply to a mix of UCAT and BMAT schools, as you'll know what your UCAT score is, but not necessarily know what your BMAT score is. So let's look at a few facts about the UCAT. First of all, UCAT stands for University Clinical Aptitude Test, and it is accepted by a consortium of 30 universities. This test is computer-based and taken at Pearson VUE centers. There are Pearson VUE centers all around the UK, so you should be able to find a center that's near you. The cost to take the UCAT is £65 up until the 31st of August. If you choose to take the test after the 31st of August, it will cost £87. To register for the UCAT, you need to visit www.ucat.ac.uk. The BMAT is the other medical exam, and this is only required by 8 universities in the UK. This is an exam created by Cambridge Assessment, and it stands for Biomedical Admissions Test. You can only take the BMAT on one of two dates. The first date is in either late August or early September, and the second date is in either late October or early November. Unlike the UCAT, this is a paper-based test. However, also unlike the UCAT, you cannot use a calculator. So the UCAT has an on-screen calculator that you can use, but the BMAT has no calculator. In order to register for the BMAT, you'll need to register through your school. However, if you're not in school anymore, then you can go ahead and either contact a school in order to gain a seat, or you can contact Cambridge Assessment and they can help you find a seat. The cost to take the BMAT for UK and EU residents is £48. And to find out more information on the BMAT, go ahead and visit www.bmat.org.uk. Here you can see the list of UCAT universities. This is a wide range of universities and a wide range of programs. And something else to keep in mind is that each university treats the UCAT differently. Some universities put a lot of weight on the UCAT, sometimes just as much as grades. Other universities take the UCAT as an indicative measure of a student's potential. And some universities put no real weight on the UCAT at all. Here is the list of BMAT universities. Now, BMAT universities do put a lot of weight on the BMAT. Please do keep in mind, though, that the BMAT is no longer required for veterinary science programs. So if you're looking at applying to a veterinary science program, you do not need to take this exam. Now let's do a compare and contrast between the UCAT and BMAT test formats. Both tests are 2 hours long. The UCAT is computer-based and has an online calculator. The BMAT is paper-based and does not have a calculator. The UCAT has 5 sections that need to be completed in those 2 hours. The BMAT has 3 sections. The UCAT is a race against time. The verbal reasoning section is 44 questions in 21 minutes. The abstract reasoning is 55 questions in 13 minutes. Just getting an answer down for every single question on the UCAT is a victory in and of itself. The BMAT is not quite as time pressured, although it's certainly not a slow exam. The first section, Aptitude and Skills, has 35 questions in 60 minutes, and the second section, Scientific Knowledge and Applications, has 27 questions in 30 minutes. Also keep in mind that the BMAT has a third section, which is an essay. The scoring also differs between the UCAT and the BMAT. So the scoring for the UCAT is a 300 to a 900 across the first 4 sections, and these are referred to as the cognitive sections. The combined score of those 4 sections is your out of 3600 score. The 5th section, Situational Judgment, is scored from Band 1 to Band 4, with Band 1 being the best score. Some universities do have a cutoff for situational judgment. Those cutoffs can either be they will not accept anybody who has gained a Band 4, or they will require a Band 2 or higher. The first 2 sections of the BMAT use a 1 to 9 scoring system in decimal format. The writing section is scored separately. Students will receive 2 scores on the writing section, a 0 to a 5, which refers to the quality of the content of the essay, and then a letter grade, which refers to the quality of the written English. Now, neither of these tests are easy exams. And as I said earlier, one of the hardest things is trying to get an answer down for every single question in those 2 hours. So it's important to know how you can use your time wisely. And one of the most important things is knowing when you can take mini breaks. Trying to focus straight for 2 hours is very difficult to do. So on both the UCAT and the BMAT, you get a short break between each of the sections. This is technically a time for you to read the instructions of the section. However, if you already know the instructions for the section, you can use that as a mini 1-minute break. This can allow you to leave the last section behind, get focused on the next section, and make sure that you put your best foot forward. So as we said, the UCAT is scored out of a total of 3,600 with a maximum of a 900 in the first 4 sections. Here you can see the average section scores at the end of the testing season in 2019. Verbal reasoning was a 565, decision making 618, quantitative reasoning 662, and abstract reasoning 638. This follows the traditional scoring pattern that we've seen over the last couple of years, which is that verbal reasoning tends to have the lowest overall average, while quantitative reasoning tends to have the highest overall average. Now the total scaled score is a 2483. Most of the time, the universities are more concerned about your total scaled score than your individual section scores. The BMAT is scored along a decimal system. So if we start with BMAT Section 2, which is the science section that tests you on physics, biology, chemistry, and maths, the top 10% of students tend to score a 6.5 out of 9 or above. However, if you can obtain a score of a 5.5 or above, you are very competitive. For Section 1, the top 10% of students score a 6.3 or above, so slightly lower than Section 2. But again, if you can score above a 5.5, your score is quite good. For Section 3, the essay, the majority of students score a 3 for quality of content, which means if you can get a 4 or above, you are doing fantastically well on this section. Now you'll also notice that almost every student receives an A for the quality of written English. So you need to obtain an A for your standards of written English. So what are the challenges and how can we combat them when we're dealing with the UCAT and the BMAT? Well, the UCAT is timing. There are too many questions and there's just not enough time. And on top of that, the questions are extremely unfamiliar. Well, there's a couple of things that we can do to combat this. One, don't leave any questions blank. There's no negative marking on this exam, so you might as well put an answer down for every single question. Also, practice for pacing. This is not a level of speed that you would do naturally while taking a test, so you need to force yourself to get used to this kind of pacing. And also have a strategy for each section. This test is so quick that you can't make a strategy up on that day. You can't figure it out as you go. You need to know exactly what you are going to do the moment that test starts. For the BMAT, one of the biggest challenges is that there are no calculators and that the questions can be worded in a complex manner. So there are a couple ways that we can combat this. One, triage questions. That means don't get stuck on questions that are extremely difficult. Every single question is worth the same amount of marks, no matter how difficult the question is. So why not maximize your marks on easy questions and leave the difficult questions to the side? That being said, don't leave those questions blank. Just like the UCAT, there's no negative marking, so you might as well guess. Remember, you have a 100% chance of getting the question wrong if you don't mark an answer. But you have at least a chance of getting it correct if you put an answer down. And last but not least, plan before you write the essay. This essay is only one sheet of A4. It will not take you 30 minutes to fill a sheet of A4. So use some of that time to plan a strong essay so you can make sure that you are presenting your best work to admissions committees. So you've prepared and you've taken your UCAT and your BMAT, you've written your personal statement, and you've submitted your application. Now it's time for medical school interviews. Why do medical schools have interviews? Well, there are so many applicants for medical school that universities need to further evaluate compelling applicants. Because just because an applicant looks good on paper doesn't mean that they'll actually make a good doctor. So things that they're trying to learn about in the interviews are, what do you know about medical ethics? What do you already know about the NHS and practicing medicine? What are your expectations about life at medical school? And how is your background in skills and personality going to influence your future medical career? At the point of the interview, the decision of whether or not a candidate will be offered a place rests on the interview. Most of the time, an applicant has already passed the application stage. The university is interested in that student, and it's now up to the student to convince the university to offer them a place. Now, there are two kinds of interviews that are popular within the UK medical school system. The first is the more traditional panel interview. This consists of a student talking to a series of examiners that consist of university faculty staff, clinical tutors, and senior medical students. The panel interviewers will go ahead and ask questions to the applicant concerning their academic qualifications, any kind of work experience, and why the student is interested in applying to medical school. A typical panel interview will take between 15 and 20 minutes. Another type of interview that's becoming more and more popular are MMIs. MMIs are multiple mini interviews. So these examiners are very similar to the examiners that we saw in the panel interview. We're seeing university faculty, staff, and students. But instead of a student sitting there and being asked several questions, students will go to different stations, and some of these stations might even be staffed by professional actors. At each station, applicants are going to be presented with some sort of scenario or question. They'll be given a short amount of time to go ahead and prepare to answer. They'll be given a short amount of time in order to plan how they will react to the scenario or answer the question. In total, applicants will go through approximately 8 to 10 interview stations that can last between 4 and 10 minutes. These stations are meant to evaluate applicants' performance under time-pressured settings. They could simulate life as a medical student, life as a doctor. It could ask students to interpret data. They could ask students to work with a patient. They could ask students to quickly solve a problem. And in general, the entire process of going through these interview stations takes about 2 hours. So what are some of the challenges that can pop up when dealing with panel interviews and MMIs? Well, panel interviews are going to ask you questions about medicine, the NHS, and other topics that an applicant may not necessarily know that much information about. And another challenge is maintaining poise in front of a panel to ensure the panel that you can work under a time-pressured and stressed setting. For MMIs, one of the challenges is having a very short amount of time to prepare for a station. It's normally approximately 1 minute. And just like panel interviews, MMIs expect applicants to demonstrate knowledge of medical ethics, the NHS, practice medicine, along with showing personality skills like empathy and mental cognitive skills like problem solving. Another difficulty is being fresh at each station. It's very easy to respond to a previous station and then move on, and then be stuck on thinking, what could you have done differently, or what did you do well, instead of leaving that station behind, focusing on the next station, and doing the best that you can. So how can Kaplan help you prepare for the UCAT, the BMAT, and your interviews? Well, we do offer a variety of free practice. We have a free online short test for the UCAT and the BMAT. We have a free question bank trial. We have free interview prep questions to help you practice responding. We have a study guide to help you figure out how you should space your time out. We have a UCAT and BMAT timeline so you know what to do and when to do it. And last but not least, we also offer test, course, and free practice updates via Facebook and Twitter. In addition, we offer question banks. So question banks allow students to just practice series of questions, see how they've done, learn from their mistakes, and then continue practicing using further questions. So our UCAT question bank contains over 3,500 questions and 3 full-length practice tests. Plus, you can go ahead and customize quizzes to make sure you're targeting your greatest areas of opportunity. And on top of that, you get access to the Future Doctors channel, which allows you to meet with real-life medical students who can tell you what medical school is like, can tell you what a career in medicine is like, and give you extra tips and tricks for the UCAT and the BMAT. Our BMAT question bank has over 600 questions, also offers access to the Future Doctors channel, and allows you to do BMAT essay review. If you want something a little bit more intensive, we offer 2-day or 4-day courses on the weekdays and weekends. Our UCAT courses start in June, and our BMAT courses start in July. And we offer these courses all around the UK and Ireland, and live online. The focus of these classes are to help you work on score-raising techniques. As we saw when going through the structure of the UCAT and the BMAT, these tests are not particularly content-focused, except Section 2 of the BMAT exam. So, learning how to answer these questions quickly and efficiently will help you improve your scores on test day. Our teachers are expertly trained, and every single teacher at Kaplan has scored within the top 10% of the UCAT and the BMAT. Our classrooms are also very interactive. This is not a lecture-style classroom. This is a place to ask questions, to try things out, and to perfect new skills. If a 2-day or 4-day classroom course does not seem to work for you, we also offer a self-study course, which allows you to do this course with pre-recorded videos. And we also offer private tutoring if you want a more personal experience. So when you enroll in a UCAT or BMAT course, you'll receive 10 video lessons and strategy sessions. You'll also receive a strategy book that you'll work through while working on these video lessons. You will get an online study center where you'll find 6 full-length practice tests, the Future Doctors channel, 500 mastery questions and 30 section focus quizzes for the UCAT, an essay marking service for the BMAT, and a BMAT question bank for the BMAT. You will receive access to this online study center until the October UCAS deadline for the UCAT or until the BMAT test date. For help with your interviews and MMIs, we offer one-day courses starting in October and running through January. We run these courses in person in London, Birmingham, and Manchester. They are led by a medical doctor and a medical student, so you know that you are getting the most accurate information. You'll also get the opportunity to have a mock one-to-one interview and participate in an MMI circuit. On top of that, you'll get an interview course book, which has background information on the NHS and medical ethics to help you be more prepared for those questions. You'll also get ongoing teacher support until your interviews are over. And if you book an interview or MMI prep course with us, you'll receive up to £20 off your UCAT and BMAT prep. If you have any questions about the UCAT, the BMAT, or interview prep, please feel free to visit our website at www.captest.co.uk. Alternatively, feel free to give us a call at the number on the screen or send us an email at global.info@kaplan.com